Here are two gardens. Same size, same soil, same climate. By July, one is producing food every single week. The other has more empty ground than plants, and the gardener can't figure out why. The difference isn't the seeds, it isn't the watering schedule, it isn't the soil, it's the layout. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the four-step system I use to make sure no space sits idle, from the first spring planting all the way through fall. Any size plot, any setup. Let's build it. Most gardeners plan their garden one crop at a time. They find a seed packet they like, they find an empty spot, and they put the plant there. It feels logical in March. By July, it's a mess. Gaps where the lettuce used to be, a squash vine shading out half the bed, tall plants blocking sun from short ones for half the afternoon. The result is a garden that works in May and struggles by July. And most gardeners assume that's just how gardening goes. It isn't. The fix is designing the space before anything goes in the ground, treating the layout like a system, not a series of individual decisions made whenever you happen to have an hour and some seeds. Here's how that system works. The first thing I'd change in almost any garden I've seen, before the seeds, before the soil amendments, before anything else, is which direction the beds are facing. Most beds end up running east to west, or at some angle dictated by the fence line or the edge of a patio. Nobody thinks about it, it's just where the space was. And then the back half of every bed spends half the day in shadow, and nobody knows why yields are disappointing. Productive gardens run north to south. Tall crops go on the north end of each bed. Tomatoes, pole beans, trellised cucumbers. Shorter crops go to the south. Lettuce, carrots, herbs. The sun angles from the south all day. In a north to south bed means taller plants cast their shadow behind them rather than across their neighbors. This one change can recover 2 to 3 hours of productive sunlight per day in a bed that was previously half-shaded. In a 100-square-foot garden, that's the difference between marginal production and real yield. If your beds are already in the ground and can't be moved, apply this logic within each bed. Tallest plants to the north end, shortest to the south. You recover most of the benefit without breaking anything down. Get the orientation right before anything else. The rest of the system depends on it. Here's what most gardens actually look like. One big, undifferentiated space where any crop can go anywhere, and every bed gets treated the same. It feels flexible. What it actually does is guarantee that nothing gets optimized. You end up average everywhere instead of excellent where it counts. The fix is dividing your garden into 3 zones, each with a defined job, and then making planting decisions based on that job rather than whatever seems convenient at the time. The first zone is your anchor zone. This is where your permanent plantings live. Perennial herbs like thyme, sage, chives, oregano, strawberries if you grow them, anything that comes back every year without being replanted. This zone sits at the north edge of your garden, out of the way of your annual beds, and it produces from the moment the ground thaws without you doing anything. You plant it once and it just keeps going. The second zone is where your heavy producers go. Tomatoes, squash, beans, peppers. These crops need the most space and the most nutrition, and they return the most food per plant. Give them your best beds. Amend this soil every year. Don't shortchange them on space. The third zone is the one most gardeners either ignore or underestimate. This is your fast turnover zone. Lettuce, spinach, radishes, arugula, cilantro. These crops go from seed to harvest in 30 to 45 days. That means while one tomato plant is slowly working its way toward August, you can run 3 or 4 full rounds of crops through this zone. It's your most productive ground per square foot in the entire garden. The reason most gardeners don't get that production out of it is simple. The lettuce bolts, they pull it, they mean to replant, and they don't. Giving this zone a defined role, making it a zone with a job rather than just an empty spot, is what creates the habit of keeping it moving. This next part is the step almost every gardening resource skips, and it's the one that makes the biggest difference between a garden that produces all season and one that coasts through June and goes quiet. Every bed needs 2 crops assigned to it before the season starts, not 1, 2, the first crop and the crop that follows it.
Here's what that looks like in practice. Spinach goes in 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost. It's done by early June. If you haven't planned what comes next, that bed sits empty while you figure it out, and you lose 2 or 3 weeks of growing time in the middle of your best season. But if your plan already says that bed goes to summer beans the day the spinach comes out, you have those beans ready. The bed never sits empty. Each time a crop clears, work a thin layer of compost into the bed before the next one goes in. The soil never depletes because it never sits idle. You're feeding it every time you replant. Spinach followed by beans, peas followed by summer squash, early lettuce followed by fall brassicas. The sequence is the layout. The layout is the system. If you don't have a follow-up assigned before you plant the first crop, the bed will almost certainly go empty. That's just how it works in practice. By July, it's 90 degrees. There are things to harvest, and the last thing anyone wants to do is stand in a hot garden trying to remember what was supposed to go where and whether it's too late to start it. That's when most gardens stop improving, not because the gardeners stopped caring, because the decisions got too hard in the moment. The solution is to make those decisions in February when you're sitting inside with a coffee and the whole season is still theoretical. You don't need software. Draw your beds on a piece of paper. Label each one with its zone, its first crop, and its follow-up crop. Add planting dates if you want to be thorough. That's the map. When a bed clears in July, you don't think, you look at the map. The map says plant carrots. You plant carrots. The decision was already made by a version of you who wasn't hot and tired and ready to go inside. That's the whole system. Oriented beds, defined zones, pre-planned succession, and a map to manage it so it actually happens. This garden setup works on any size plot. If you're gardening in raised beds or containers, the logic is identical. Orient for sun, assign each bed a zone role, and plan the follow-up crop before you put the first seed in. Small space gardeners actually get the most out of step 3, because fast turnover is the only way to pull a real harvest from limited ground. A garden built this way doesn't need to start over each season. It improves. The soil in your heavy production zone gets better every year. Your fast turnover zone starts running on its own. Your perennial zone expands without any effort from you. That's the goal. A garden that works harder every year because the structure underneath it is sound. If your current layout isn't doing that, this is where you start. Get the orientation right, assign the zones, plan the follow-up crops before you plant anything, draw the map. You don't need more space. You need a better plan for the space you have. And if you want to see how all of this comes together into a garden that produces year-round, I've already made that video. It's right here.